Hi. Okay, so this is about how to change your life. Okay, so in an earlier video, I talked about some really basic things about change. One, change is a major part of life. Okay, it's not like something that if you want to live, you can avoid. You know? Now, we do experience resistance to change and fear of change. And we're coming out of a cultural background over a long period of time where we've been really resistant to change. And I'm going to go into why, because that gets right to the core of how. Right? When you understand why we've resisted change, and then how that was set up, how we set that up, and why we went through that, then you can really get to how to change your life. And I want to emphasize that question is how to change your life. There are many people out there talking about how to change your life, and really what they're sharing, and that's appropriate, but often with the intention, well, I did it this way, so it'll work for you, rather than I did it this way, take what you need from it, because the thing is that's how they change their life, if it's genuine. Sometimes it's not even genuine, but it's how they changed their life. But this is about how to change your life. Okay, so as I said in the initial video, in case you haven't heard it or seen it, there is a step-by-step thing that sets up change. And the first, well, to even be ready for change, you need two things. One, the willingness to change. So first thing, recognize there is resistance and fear about change in the world. Two, for change to happen, you need to be willing to change. Otherwise, you'll resist it and be afraid and make it really difficult. And that can create a lot of stress. Thirdly, pick a method you know will work. You know, not someone else knows will work, but you go, oh, I don't know, but they believe in it, so I'll go along with it. No, it's one that you know will work. See, when you're willing to change, you're going to go, I am willing to change, so I don't want someone's experiment or someone else's advice. I want to know an approach to change that I know will work. Why? Because you know it's going to work. And that puts so much of your energy, so much of your psychology, so much of what they label the placebo effect behind, your passion for change, behind your commitment to change. Now, once that's in place, the actual process of change is this. And I've covered it in the previous video, but I'll just go quickly through it before we move on. You need to recognize there's a need for change, that you're willing to change. Recognize it, that there is a need for change. Secondly, acknowledge it, own it. I recognize it and I own it, because that's a huge part of the willingness to change. I own this. It's up to me, or it needs to happen in my life. It needs to happen in my finances, in my relationship, in my family, in the world. And acknowledge it. And it's going to need to bring significant change. It's not just going to be do the same old, same old. And then if it's a result of a negative experience or negative things that you've done, forgive yourself so you finally are free of what got you stuck, of what is resisting the change, or you're free of doing it the old way so change can happen. And if it came about because of something positive you did or something positive that came into your life, then celebrate it. Put a lot of good energy into the fact that it's time for change. I acknowledge my life has to change. I own it. It's time, I own that I'm going to change, and I'm celebrating. And it came about because of all these great things that happened. Our business is really thriving now, and we need to change our systems so that we can go to the next level. Celebrate that, i.e., not, as I said in the previous video, don't get wasted. Put a lot of really good positive energy into it that is a celebration. I mean, the Japanese are really good at this, putting positive energy into the new season, thanking the gods, thanking, rice for growing in the fields. They're really into it, and many other cultures as well. So you celebrate, and that creates the domain, the environment, the energy, the place, the space in which change happens. Then basically you just get out of the way and allow the change to happen. But in setting all that up so that change can happen, there's some really good how-to approaches that can bring about, can help you make change that are current, relevant to our life now in the real world, in practical life. And that is this. The biggest rubber hits the road change that's happening in the world, that's common to all the sorts of different things that are going on, from political change, personal change, growth in relationships, financial change all around the world, is we have to change the way we're making decisions. Decisions are when you've made a choice or you've got a preference, and then you put the energy into making it happen. That's what a decision is. I'm going to put energy into this to make it happen in the real world. I mean, I can choose to barrack for my favourite football team, but a decision is I'm going to turn up at the matches and wave flags and cheer and send a lot of positive energy into it, right? That's a decision. So everything that needs to happen, let's just look at the world. There's so many resources. There's enough resources to feed, not only feed everyone, but give everyone a good life. But we haven't made the decision to shift and change everything enough. We're too caught up in our theories and cultures and ideas. And there's a fundamental reason behind this. For tens of thousands of years, we all have made decisions with our mind. We've used our analytical mind, our imaginative mind, our, story, abstract mind, artistic mind, you might call it, to make decisions. And because your mind, and this applies not only to history, but to your life. You've been brought up in culture that has taught you to make decisions with your mind, even though the fact is we've outgrown that by at least 200 years. Now, don't believe me because I said so, and don't believe me because I've got this information from here or there. Test this out for yourself. Is making decisions with your mind something that works for you? And if it's, look at history. Incredible progress and incredible suffering. Words like collateral damage, is a way we sort of brush it aside. Oh yes, in the name of progress, so much suffering happened. In the name of the establishment of the Mongol Empire, we terrorized and burned towns all over the known world. Right? And it was effective because they submitted. They were terrified of not submitting it. Is that the best way to make decisions? Is that the best way to build an empire? Is that the best way to have a relationship? Is that the best way to change your finances? And that's an extreme example again, but it's obvious. Well, it'd be great if there was a better way. And that's available now. Making decisions is crucial to how to change your life. Because you've got to make a decision that I'm willing to change. And you've got to make a decision on what technique to use that you know will work. I've got to decide, I know this is going to work. And that decision has to come from somewhere reliable. And you need to decide, I'm going to recognize this, because it's easy to just not. No, I'm not going to recog. I'm not going to look at this and recognize that change needs to happen. Or, gosh, we're growing so fast in our business, we need to change. And then you've got to decide to acknowledge it and own it in the real world, practically. Well, I've got to own this. I've got to do something about it. I've got to get involved with the change. I've got to, change has to happen. I'm not even sure how, but my options aren't that great, or I've got so many options and I'm going to have to change. And then you have to make a decision to either forgive if it's a negative thing, and you need to make a decision to celebrate if it comes from a positive circumstance. And then everything's set up for change to happen. And this, look, it doesn't matter whether you theoretically understand this or not. Go and look at your real life. This is the way change happens. And I'm happy to discuss this with people in more depth if they want to, but this is what happens. They're the basic fundamentals. And the decision-making process is what sets the whole thing up, which makes it real in your real life so it can really happen. And as I've said before, one thing I've learned from a system that I've been deeply involved with in the last 8 years, after being trained in science and working and reinventing many different alternative fields, which alternative sciences, you might call them. I've had a lot of experience in science and alternative sciences, and then business and how you apply that in the real world. Well, the thing that I've found that's been most useful and most effective in bringing about or allowing or producing change and allowing it to happen in a way that really works, the how-to, is a system called human design, which is all about how you make decisions, how you take your energy and pour it into the practical side of life so things manifest. And it gives, why it's so useful is not because of its name or all the different features or because it's the latest, greatest, whatever. What makes it so useful is it gives you a testable, reliable way of making decisions that's an alternative to your mind making decisions. And in my experience over 8 years, it is far more accurate and effective for me as an individual. It's not the same for everyone. In fact, everyone has their own unique nature. Each of you have your own unique nature. There has never been anyone like you. There never will be. And that unique nature is necessary now for real change to happen in the real world. And human design gives you a customized, tailored, way that's based on your nature, not based on a theory, of making decisions with what they call your strategy. They give you a unique strategy to know when to make decisions, when you even have a decision to make, and an inner authority, which is your way of deciding in a way that takes the burden of decision making off your mind. So the mind then is not denied, it's liberated to go and do the things it loves to do. And when it's in that state, it can create, it can outline, it can imagine, it can give you options that allow change to be seen and experienced as an incredible part of life, a wonderful part of life. A thing that, oh my God, if I was God and I was creating life, one thing I would not leave out is change. It's crucial, and it can be fun and incredibly successful. And I can now, as an individual, bring to the table new perspective on change. Like animals and trees can't really go, I'm going to put a new perspective on change. They've just got to work with it. They, in some ways, yes, they do because of evolutionary forces and whatever. But we can consciously engage the whole process and add value to the whole process without denying natural change, the natural processes of change, and liberate our mind to dream and vision and observe and measure and to, know things, to see possibilities. But then there's this part of us that human design outlines that knows what's the right decision for you. So it helps you make decisions. And the other beautiful thing about it is it helps you make decisions in a way that you know the timing is right. You know two things. This is a good decision for me or not. And secondly, the timing's right or not. Both packaged in the same thing, in your strategy and inner authority. Now, obviously your mind's going to be engaged in recognizing that there's need for change. Obviously your mind is going to be involved in, am I willing to change? Am I willing to own that this change needs to happen and willing to go through with it? And your mind will be involved in forgiveness or in creating a celebration or just celebrating it within yourself. So it's got a great role to play. And it'll recognize when the change happens and go, oh my God, I've changed. But the whole process of taking that energy and manifesting it in the real world happens when you decide, because that's what a decision is. I'm going to put my energy into making this real in the physical world. I've made these choices, now I'm going to make them real. It's the power of decision making. And so having something an approach that gives you an alternative to making decisions with your mind, an alternative based in your body, in your unique nature as a human being, so that the part of you that lives in the real world can take responsibility for making decisions about the things that are going to affect it. It'll know whether you've got the energy to do it. It will know if the timing's right, because it's a part of this world. Your body, all of you that actually lives in the real world and experiences the consequences of your decisions. That's the part that now is not only capable of making decisions, but capable of making far more complex and sophisticated decisions than our mind is capable of making. It, in a sense, takes the burden off the mind so it can do what it's really great at doing, and the body can be responsible for and do what it's really good is responsible for its own life, your life, the life you have in this body. How to change your life. It's really how to change the life that I have in this body, the life you are living. and making decisions with the part of you that lives with the consequences of that, your body, is far more accurate at knowing when you have the energy to really engage change and benefit from it, and two, when the timing's right. Because there's a saying that timing is everything. Well, I don't know whether timing's everything, but in making decisions, in producing the best that you have to offer, in whatever it is, an artistic pursuit or in a business endeavor or in your relationships or in making love or, raising your children, you get the timing right, it makes a huge difference. So engaging, how to make decisions in your life. Well, you know the process. But what grounds the process is making decisions in the way that works in the current world, in the incredible complexity of the current world. Because, to try and analyse everything that's going on, there's too much. They're creating machines that can work out far more things in a short period of time than a human being's capable of. It'll be developing into robots and stuff like that. But you don't want a robot making decisions about your life. Maybe one day it'll be making decisions about its experience of life. But you want to be the person making decisions about your life and making decisions that really work. And when in times of change like we live in now, where change has never happened so rapidly on so many levels, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all those levels are changing simultaneously at a massive scale. We are changing now as a species. We're living far longer than we used to. And we're not designed to make decisions with our minds. Our minds need to be free of that burden so they can do what they're really great at doing. And the other thing that's really going to influence your openness to change and the how-to is what's emerging now is unique individuality in every person. For a long time, that threatened tribes and societies beyond a certain point. It was helpful genetically, have some differences, but don't go too far or else, boom, chop. Now it's essential that each person brings their individual gifts to the table. And so much of the change that's happening in the world now is to restructure our whole lives, even the world we live in, to allow the blossoming of individuality without it becoming anarchistic, to allow people to move through the world by making decisions in the unique way that they're designed, born to make decisions. So they end up where they belong, surrounded by the people they belong with, who aren't threatened by them being unique individuals. And through all those people they belong with, they're connected to the rest of humanity. So another rubber hits the road way to change your life is start really embracing and discovering, unfolding your unique individual gifts, who you are as a unique individual. Now, that's going to take some profound cultural, social changes and evolution over the next decades to free that up. And so it's crucial, if this is going to happen with the least amount of pain and drama and confrontation and all that sort of stuff, that we make decisions that work for us, because if it really works for us, it will work for other people. We make decisions when the timing's right, and we develop the art of relating, not putting people in boxes that we call relationship. We relate and really develop the ability to relate to each other as unique individuals who have their own decision-making process. So I've spoken long enough about this, but hopefully that's given you some inspiration, some insight, some interest, potentially in checking out and seeing if human design's right for you. And even if it isn't, that whole discussion that I've had on change can give you some fundamental, basic understanding about, wow, that's how I set change up. You know, that's where I need to be coming from for change to be something that not only can happen, but can happen elegantly in a way that I benefit from without the need for any more struggle or pain than just you need to challenge you to get, to open up a little bit more. But without this incredible pain and drama that goes on in the world at the moment. It doesn't need to be that painful. It doesn't need to be that dramatic. If we're acknowledging our individual nature and taking responsibility for making great decisions that work for us. If I can help you in any further way, feel free to contact me. There will be, links on the video and at my website links. Go to the website and you can check out what else I do. And if I can help you with change in your life, it would be my pleasure. But make sure you're willing, right? And this is the right approach for you. Because those two things make not only change inevitable, because it is anyway, but they make change possible in the direction that's right for you. So it's been a pleasure. Talk to you again soon.